and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Encrypted Connections. I am your host, Kyle. Happy Tuesday night, everybody. Happy Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning. I don't know where you are or what your deal is, but sometimes we get people from all over the globe here. So my Tuesday night is your Wednesday morning. Sonia, I'm very happy to see you here, dear. We were just talking to Mom about you the other day, and I told her, I said, nope, she's safe. She's good where she is. So I'm happy that you're here tonight. Still praying for all the poor people over there that are having to go through all this stuff. It's terrible. It's just scary, man. Can you imagine waking up one day and all of a sudden you start feeling earthquake after earthquake after earthquake, and it happens over and over and over and over, and you're like, man, what the hell is going on here? And something bad's happening, but not quite sure. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, there's a giant volcano that's about to erupt any day now. Just scary, very scary. The world's a scary place. Hello, Trish, how are you? Good to see you. I was just talking about you like 2 days ago, actually, with another friend from the cryptid community. Sharon, it's 1:08. Is that AM? It's right. You're in the UK, aren't you? Yeah, it's AM. Yeah. So you're what? 6, 7 hours ahead? 7 hours ahead? Henry, how are you, man? Hope you're feeling better. Harvest Mary Moon, welcome, welcome, welcome. Who else is here? My buddy Ben. Ben sent me something the other day that is incredibly interesting. I am not going to do it. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to talk about it because I want Ben to come on the show to show it. It is very, very interesting. That's all I'm going to say. So Benny boy, man up. Let's get you on the show so we can show that thing, man. Because it's me, like I'm picky about this stuff, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's really. I can't say too much. I don't want to give too much away, but it's something. Anyway, let's bring the peeps on. First, my co-host and the Wizard of the Soggy Bottom, Mr. Dey Edwards. How are you doing?
Howdy, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. And then our guest for this evening, you've seen him before. He's in the chat, always cracking a joke or lighting smoke. He's also going to be part of the dynamic duo, the bitter couch potato and the salty explorer.
How's it going, everybody?
What's up, man? Ben, did you hear that? Were you watching when I said that? You need to come on the show so we can show this picture. I want to show it, dude, but I'm not doing it without you on the show. It's that interesting. I sent it to Dewey without saying what it is. Dewey, what'd you think? Interesting?
Definitely a face. Definitely.
Definitely, right?
Definitely, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah. I'm intrigued now.
Oh, it is. I'll tell you right now, dude. I am super, super picky about this stuff. Like I'm kind of a jerk when it comes to pictures with these kind of things, and like I shut stuff down really quickly. He sent it to me, and at first, like I had a hard time kind of looking through, and then finally I was like, whoa, wait a minute, that's something. You'll see. We'll get Ben on the show, even if he can only come on for a little bit, but we'll get him on the show so he can show it. Hopefully sooner than later, because it really, like I am so intrigued, and this is part of the reason why I said, like, big giant plan, very like high hopes and lofty goal to go over to the UK at some point, because there's something going on there.
Oh, that'd be an awesome trip.
Dude, there is something going on there where he's at. Fresh has weird stuff going on where he's at. Like, it's, people who think that this stuff doesn't happen in the UK or there can't be Sasquatch in the UK. I'm here to tell you that I think you're wrong. Why couldn't there be? Like,
absolutely.
What's the reason? What's the reasoning behind there not being? Because the UK is not as big as America, and the forests aren't as big. Like, that's kind of fresh. What say you? He's calling us gentlemen. He must be drinking.
He must be watching another show off to the side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's got 2 shows going at once. He forgot who he was typing to. Isla, how are you? Good to see you. So yeah, I'll tell you, man. There was a show. Did I talk about this? Did I talk about the Squatch America, the last episode?
I think you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And they showed the pictures that they had. I hope you guys all went and checked those out because those were super interesting too. Again, to the one that they showed first, excuse me, which was the picture they took. It looked like it was 2 faces. And one of the faces in that picture looks very similar to this thing that Ben caught. Like very, very similar. It's weird. And then the second picture that they showed was the more intriguing one to me. Like the faces were amazing, but when you see it, the second picture shows what looks to be a full Sasquatch. It's hunched over. You see the big giant eye shine that's so far apart, and it looks like its arms are like leaning forward like a gorilla, almost like if it's trying to move on all fours. That's how that looked to me. It was like, whoa, that's and I've asked around about those 2 folks, and the sentiments that I continue to get are very, very highly unlikely that they would ever hoax anything. Just not who they are. They really are a giant part of this community. They travel to every conference. Like, that's just not who they are. So it's interesting, man. Sadly, the pictures and the video don't push the ball forward in this subject matter anymore because, it sucks because you got so many hoaxers, and first you had Photoshop, now you got AI. It's like, even if you were there and 100% what you caught, most people are just going to go, yeah, either you're full of shit or, it's a hoax or it's AI, whatever, it just doesn't push the ball forward. And that's sad because for the longest time, that was what we were looking for. We were trying to get good pictures, and people get them. They just, they get written off. The acceptance of evidence in this community is really terrible.
Yep, I agree.
It's terrible, man. And I know why. Like, I get why you have to be very critical of things, but yeah, it's sad, man.
I'm even skeptical of what I have experienced myself.
Yeah, sure.
So you have to be.
Yeah,
You don't want to just call it and say, "Oh yeah, it's definitely this." You have no idea. So
no.
I mean, I appreciate the skepticism, really, but sometimes, like you said, when like what you saw and you show it to somebody, they're like, "Eh." You're like, what do you mean, eh? Like, you
Yeah,
had to be
yeah,
there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you had to be there. It's totally different.
yeah, for sure. And it's very difficult to get that across to people, right?
Oh yeah, the
Like,
feeling that you felt while you were experiencing this, or the first time you saw a picture when you were taking it, or whatever. Like, you can't relay that. You can talk about it all day long, but they're never gonna feel what you felt.
no, definitely not. I mean, Dewey, you've been doing this for how long? 30, 40 years?
Well, every bit of it. Yeah.
Every bit of it.
Wow.
I mean, so you've literally you've experienced every major change in the community as far as evidence gathering goes. From when if someone got a picture, there was really no way to hoax it other than someone had to be wearing a suit.
Right.
And then came the Photoshop era. And then, right? Yeah. And then now this AI thing just puts it all, like, it's so difficult.
Yeah. Back in the day, we had the old reel-to-reel tape recorders, the cassette recorders,
Mhm.
had the old 35 millimeter cameras, and things have come a long way since in the digital age. They've come a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What the hell was I just gonna say? It's the major thing I think, like, you know, thermal is the best evidence in my eyes, as far as visual evidence goes, because it's really difficult to fake that. How do you fake it? Like, you could essentially put on a costume or whatever, um, but you couldn't fake a full thermal signature that's very
Yeah.
large. You know what I'm saying? It would
No.
still be your thermal signature, which would be a normal man size. Or if
Yeah,
you're Steven Dorff, it would be dwarf size.
the
And only
suit's
certain
never
people will
gonna
understand that reference.
the suit's never gonna radiate heat like it's like skin would.
No, it
It's never
wouldn't.
gonna show up the
No.
same way.
No.
I mean, you'd almost have to heat up the suit and then put it on, and who the heck's gonna do that? Could you imagine?
Right. Yeah, who's gonna do that? And how would you do that? Would you stand there with
Yeah,
a blow dryer on it for 4
can you
hours and
imagine
then, I mean, it's
having an
ridiculous.
even heat signature throughout the whole thing.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then it's still the whole thing, like, even if you could manage to get the heat signature even across the whole thing, like these thermals that we're seeing people catch over, like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the decent ones over the last like 3 or 4 years, even back to Stacy Brown's dad's image that he caught, that was on Finding Bigfoot all those years ago. You couldn't fake the size of that, the stride that thing took in between those trees, and then the giant hands on that thing. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. That looked like there were two catcher's mitts.
Wow.
They were so big. Still to this day, I think it's one of the better thermals that they've caught. But then you got like Randy Harrington and Shane's stuff, from the 400, that they caught that juvenile in the bushes, which was pretty interesting too. Alex potentially has a thermal that's, if you ask Alex, he'll always lean towards the I don't know what it is, but the thermals, it's interesting. It's a very large, whatever it is big, real big.
Hmm.
So I think that's the best as far as visual evidence goes. Thermal is the best way to go because it's hard to fake. You can fake, even audio evidence, unless you have somebody who's there, who's going to, if you Scott Nelson or whatever is going to go through it and tell you, like, okay, no, this is human, or no, this is some unknown species. Like, anybody can put out a recorder and go, well, I caught something. It's
Yeah.
Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, so it's just a pain in the ass, man. It's a pain in the ass. But anyway, so let's get to it. Salty, we had you on before. We talked about the crazy Sasquatch cryptid stuff that's going on at your house. You wanted to have you back on to talk about some of the paranormal stuff that you've experienced. Let me say this real quick. I fully believe that people who have experiences with this stuff, I feel like once you've been introduced to one sector of this stuff, right? Once you've had one type of experience, I feel like it opens you up for more experiences from the other stuff. Do you guys
Yeah.
agree?
I
Oh, yeah.
100% agree.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, so you could just, you could be like one of these guys, like who's snowmobiling in the woods. You hop off your snowmobile, you're trying to fix your boots or whatever. All of a sudden, you come across Sasquatch. Holy shit! Like, what do I do? Get back on your snowmobile. You go home. You're freaked out, and you think after a few days, like, well, glad that's over. And then somehow
It's not over.
it's not over. You have an activity at your house, or you've been, now you're starting to have paranormal stuff happen, like where you never ever had it happen before. It's just weird, man. It's weird shit. But like, so you have this Sasquatch activity, but you've also had paranormal stuff happening, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, even going back several years, I remember when I was a kid, what my understanding of what ghost activity, spirit activity, stuff like that was you know things maybe moving around unexpectedly, or you put something somewhere, now it's gone, and then you're like, okay, that's weird, and then you come back later and that thing is back where it originally you knew that it was, and it wasn't there before. Taps, maybe like whispers, things like that. So
Mm.
I always thought I had a pretty good grasp of what all that was. um and then as an adult, never really thought too much of it. I always kind of knew that these things existed, um, just kind of in the background, pretty harmless um, from my understanding, or at least my opinion. Everything seemed pretty harmless. I always had like weird things. We always lived in like old houses. At
Sure.
one point when I was a kid, I lived on an old orange grove down in Homestead, Florida, and I mean the house was well over 100 years at that point. It was an old farmhouse, old wooden thing, and so you would hear things. You'd sound like people walking through, but there's nobody there. Stuff like that. Not that big of a deal. Kind of spooky as when you're a kid, but
Yeah.
nothing terrifying. Um, and then, fast forward to when I was 23 years old, I had started working a really great career. As a matter of fact, started the career that I still have now. Um, Saved up a bunch of money, bought my first house, and I was like super excited. Um, I didn't even wait to like move all my crap in. Like the night that I closed on the house and I got the keys, I got a blanket and I put it out on the living room floor, and that's where I slept that night. I was so happy, so proud. And that night while I was sleeping, try to describe it. When you walk in the front door, there was like a big open living room, and then behind that was like a huge dining room area, and then in the very back was a set of French doors with glass that looked out to the yard. Then we had like a spotlight out there and everything. And so I'm sleeping in the living room, and in the middle of the night, I wake up to what sounded like somebody was just busting through those two French doors. I mean, it was super loud, and instantly woke up like, what the heck's going on? My girlfriend at the time was like, you heard that too? I think somebody's trying to break in. But like when we heard it, we had the big area light out there. I looked right up and there's nobody there. And we thought, okay, well, could be one of two things. It could be an animal maybe ran into the door, got spooked and ran off. Deer can do weird stuff sometimes. Or um maybe somebody's trying to play a prank, you know, new people in the house, let's go mess with them or whatever.
Your
Um,
typical rationalizations.
Yeah.
Trying to be, yeah. I mean, because I hadn't experienced anything to that level before, so I had no reason to think it was anything paranormal.
Right.
Um, but little did I know that was like the start of a whole bunch of crap that, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now, dude, just thinking about it. Because in that house, um, when I would sit on the couch in the living room, I always, and I still am certain to this day, I thought I would see off to the right-hand side. There was a little hallway where there was a spare room and bathroom and my office over there. And I'd be watching TV, and I swear I would see like a tall man, but it was like a silhouette, like a black, shadow man, I guess would be the best way to describe it, standing in that hallway or in that spare room doorway watching me. And I would, turn and look, and I wouldn't see anything, but man, I mean, you could feel it. And you go back to watching TV and you can feel and see out of the corner of your eye there's something there.
Mm.
And so like I really started getting interested in trying to figure out, what this was and everything. Um, Terrible idea, apparently, because once I started showing interest and trying to figure out what it was, like things
It
started
had an audience.
exactly. I had an old digital recorder that I got from the place I worked at. They had retired them and they just had them in a box. They threw them all away. I'm like, well, shit, I'll take one of those. And I was starting to get into ghost hunters at the time. This was I want to say 2007, right about there. So the show Ghost Hunters was starting to pick up. I was seeing how they were investigating, getting taking EVPs and things like that, doing the EMF detectors. So I decided to try to do that. I went in the room, I went in that hallway area, I had an EMF detector. Um, I was getting stuff like crazy on it, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I'm getting stuff. I don't know how to explain it. It could be anything, really. You know, crappy house, crappy wiring, whatever. It was the EVPs that freaked me out because, and this is not the popular Panasonic. Was it the DR60 or whatever?
Yeah.
It was like a cheaper. It was an Olympus one, and it was really good with audio. It was very hard to hear, to get garbage in it by accident. You had to be on purpose. Um, but it was distinct. I would hear talking, but it sounded like if I put the recorder in the middle of that spare bedroom and turn it on, it sounded like somebody would be in the hallway where I'm standing, or in the doorway where I'm standing, talking, not somebody in the room. Um, and I don't remember what I heard it say exactly. I just remember I heard it talking, and then I heard myself talking, trying to ask it questions, and it like sounding like it was frustrated, like getting irritated with me. Um, and so when I when I played that back, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore.
Mm.
That's the last time I'm doing that. Like it'd be different if I went somewhere else and did it. If I went to a famous haunted place and did an investigation. But your own house,
Yeah.
hearing that kind of stuff, like I was freaked out.
Well, totally unnerving. And then and that whole there's this part of it too, right? People go looking for this stuff. And then you have people like yourself who weren't looking for any of this stuff. It just came to you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had no reason to want to see any of this stuff in my house. Like I hadn't thought of it. I I definitely didn't want any kind of close encounters.
Sure.
But yeah, so after that I quit. I'm like, I'm not gonna do investigations anymore. Like I believe there's something here. I'm pretty sure, like I've confirmed it. I'm just gonna ignore it because, and that was one of the things that I had heard watching some of these shows was you start giving it attention now, like you said, it's got an audience.
Yeah.
You're gonna give it the energy that it's gonna want to do more, and it's gonna want to escalate. And if
It's an
you,
invitation.
yeah, absolutely, an invitation is perfect way to describe that.
What
So
what year was this?
I
This
want to
happened?
say around 2007, I believe is when I bought that house.
Man, so I just in my head I'm thinking like kind of a weird thought, but like I was thinking about like when was the first time I heard about EVPs and stuff? Because I wasn't into the paranormal stuff forever.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't know much about EVPs until I watched that movie with Michael Keaton. Do you remember that movie White Noise?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Remember that? Creepy
Mhm.
shit. That movie was
Yeah.
that was freaky. That movie was. But
Mhm.
that was the first time I had heard about like getting EVPs through white noise or having the spirit box thing, whatever. I had no idea about it.
Mhm.
But then after that it was like, holy shit, I guess you don't talk to these things if they're around or potentially around. And
Yeah, I
that's
mean, so
exactly what you're experiencing there.
the practice of recording that kind of stuff, maybe it didn't have that same name back then, but I know people used to do it. They used to record on tape and capture voices and stuff like that,
Hmm. Yep.
Even reel to reels, I remember hearing about, like, people would do recordings of something that had absolutely nothing to do with ghost hunting whatsoever, and they would hear voices on the tape when they played it back, and then I had no idea what the heck it was.
Well, I think Ed and Lorraine Warren were two of the first people to actually do the reel to reel recording.
Mhm.
of catching these voices that they didn't hear while they were there.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but I'm
Well,
pretty
I'm
sure.
sure it has happened to people that had no intentions of trying to capture that, right? Like those
Right,
who were into trying to find evidence of paranormal phenomenon and stuff like that. And
right.
they set that up and they were able to capture it. But I believe that what made them even go down that path was because people had captured things like that and had no idea. Probably played it back to somebody and was like, "Listen to this. Like,
Yeah,
what is that?" you know?
right. Yeah.
Um, I think that's how a lot of this stuff comes to the surface.
Yeah, I mean, even for these people who do this all the time, it's like you see the reaction they get when all of a sudden one of these things, spirits, whatever they are, ends up like calling their name. I
Mhm.
mean, that's it. Like, I'm sorry. If I hear some disembodied voice call me by name, it's a wrap. Like
Yeah,
I'm calling every exorcist I can find.
I don't know if I feel good about that.
No, not at all. Not at all. But sorry, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no problem. So I kind of let that situation be, and I started getting it. It was, I want to say, 2009. So I had been living with this stuff for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. But 2009 was like right when the recession was getting pretty bad and stuff like that. And my financial situation changed drastically. And unfortunately, my house had to go into foreclosure and stuff like that. I was
Mhm.
struggling to find any way that I could keep the house. And at one point, I basically gave up. And I was like, okay, well, I talked to my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna have to try to, sell it, or it's gonna end up going in foreclosure. Um, Listed the house for sale, hoping somebody, would buy it, but that was fruitless. But I remember by that time I was with somebody else, and when I was listing the house and all that, and I had gotten a phone call from somebody, and they were like asking me questions about the house, like, "Oh, did you update anything to do with electrical? Did you, what did you do to the house? Asking about the property, things like that." And I was giving them answers, and then they got to a point, and they were like, "Is the house haunted?" And I was like, "What?" Like, caught me off guard. I'm like, "What do you? That's a weird question." And they were like dead serious. And they're like, "Have you had, any paranormal um, experiences there?" And I was like, "Who the hell is this? Like, this is funky. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want
yeah.
this stuff." I told them, "No, never had an issue. Everything's fine or whatever." And they're like, "Okay, well, I'll be in touch with you at some point." I'm like, I got off the phone. I'm like, "That was the weirdest damn call." And I'm telling my girlfriend, and she's like, "So why did you tell him no?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"I don't know who the frick this guy was. Like, I thought he was somebody interested in buying the house." Then he starts asking me questions about, haunted stuff or whatever, and he was serious, like, creeped me out. So I basically wanted to end the conversation, not
Yeah.
talk about it anymore. And she's like, "Well, what if he was buying the house and you told him no, and there was, shit going on or whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And she told me, and she had never brought it up before. She said that she would be at the house. Um, she had a young daughter. She's about 2 or 3 or whatever. The daughter would be playing in the spare room, and the daughter would complain that she would see, like, a scary man, and it would, like, scare her to death, and she'd come running out. And her mom would be like, "Oh, yeah, there's nobody there," or whatever, try to comfort her, let her come into the master bedroom to lay down. They were in there together or whatever, trying to take a nap, trying to calm the kid down. And she said that she saw this tall, like, black figure, shadow figure or whatever, come from the other side of the house. Because if you were laying in the bed, you could see out the master bedroom door across the living room and over to the hallway where the spare room was. She said she could see this thing, the shadow, come from that room slowly across the house through the doorway and stand at the foot of the bed and just stand there.
Mm-mm.
And she
Nope.
said she was absolutely terrified. And I'm like, why the hell didn't you say anything? Like, why didn't you tell me about this? And she's like, I didn't want you to think I was crazy. And I'm like, I don't think you're crazy. I think you're seeing the shit that I saw before.
Mm.
And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me about that? I'm like, because I didn't want you to think I'm crazy. You know, it's like, it was insane. But so I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to do anything with this. Like, at the time I was trying to work with the bank, had it for sale. The bank was like, well, maybe we'll work with you, try to refinance or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just put my hands up, call it a loss or whatever. So um, move out, move to another small farmhouse, basically on the other side of town, and we're getting stuff settled in there. It was. I don't remember if this was before or after. I want to say it was after. So I believe I had gone back to that house where I had those issues to get like last bit of stuff because I remember I went into the pantry and I was getting like the canned food and all that crap that I didn't remember to take. Um, and like while I was there, I had the garage door open and I was like looking for tools and stuff like that. Garage door, the door leading between the garage door and the house slammed shut. I'm like, well, that was strange. Okay, so go back in there. Had the garage door open still. I don't remember why I had it open, but the pantry is right next to that. And I'm like grabbing stuff out of the pantry. Garage door slammed again. Now I'm standing in that doorway and there was no draft. Like I believe the first time that happened, I thought maybe a draft blew through. No draft whatsoever. I'm standing right next to this door and it like slams shut. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm whatever's left here, I don't need it. It's not that important. I'm getting the heck out of here. Um, so I go back to the other house and um, crazy thing happened, and this was actually on Halloween night. I don't remember which year. I want it. Maybe it was 2009 or 2010. But it was Ghost Hunters used to do the live shows on Halloween night.
Mhm.
And I remember,
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
yeah, my girlfriend and I were watching that and having a good time or whatever. And like all of a sudden, I'm like, I hear water running. Do you hear water running? She's like, no. And then she's like, looks up. She's like, sounds like the shower. So I get up. I go to the other side of the house, and the shower's running in the bathroom, and it just shut off like right before I got there. And you can see everything's wet. The water's dripping out of the shower head and stuff like that. And like the freaking shower was just running. And she's like, no, I think you're like creeped out because you're watching the Ghost Hunter show and stuff like that. I'm like, no, there's not even anything happening on this show to make me creeped out. Like, look at it. There's water everywhere. This thing was running. She's like, no, I don't think so. Okay, fine. So I go to walk back and I'm sitting on the couch and I just keep looking down the hallway like where the bathroom was. And it was like creeping me out. And I noticed it caught out of the corner of my eye. I can see through the kitchen window. There was a light on outside. Now that light was on a shed, an old shed that I had just been out there. We were putting stuff from my old house, um, organizing out there, and I saw the wiring for this light was completely chewed through by a rat, and the rat had actually like electrocuted itself, and it was still there, like fried to a crisp. The electrical in that shed did not work at all. Somehow that night, after that shower turned on and everything, that light is on at that shed. And I'm like, that freaking light is like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like that electrical wiring is completely shot. There's a fried rat hanging off of it. Like, how the hell is that happening?
Uh-huh.
And she's like, I don't know. We'll figure it out in the morning or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. So we didn't have any more stuff that night, But the next morning, I mean, as soon as the sun came up, I'm out there and I'm in the shed with my flashlight. Sure as shit, the wiring is completely shot. The light does not work. It does not turn on. So I have no idea, like, what the hell was going on. But um, that was weird, but I wouldn't say like the scariest. Um, obviously, seeing like a shadow figure in your house is a lot scarier than that. But one thing that I started experiencing with her was she almost seemed like a different person sometimes, and I'm under the impression that I don't know if something was like possessing her or influencing her to act a certain way or whatever, but like she became really defensive of that shed. Wouldn't let me touch anything in there. I couldn't like bring anything out. I still had my shit in there, but like she would get to the point where physically like blocking me, and then like her eyes looked like hollow, like she wasn't even a person anymore. It's like there were several instances of that. Um, and one of the times that she was like that, I'm like, okay, let's get you out of the house. Like I feel like something weird's going on. Got her out of the house, got down the road to one of our friends' houses. It's perfectly normal. And it's like, what are we even doing here? Didn't even know how we got there. And granted, that could have been something else. She could have had a health issue or something else. But um, all those things coinciding together, at least it's my belief there was something spiritually influencing her to, taking over her or something like that. But what's weird, what makes me still think that I don't think I thought it that much at the time, but I think about it more now because her and I ended up breaking up, um, ended up moving to a different house. Everything was cool, calm, or whatever. Um, I actually met the the girl who's my wife now, but we were dating at the time, and I had all my stuff from the previous house in a storage unit. So the new house I was in was completely bare. We just had a couch and a TV. Didn't even have pots and pans or plates or anything. Like she had to get me some of that stuff so that it was actually livable. Um, but like the first couple of weeks that she started staying there, like out of the blue, she would start to feel when she would go into the house, she would start to feel sick. Um, and to the point where she actually got like really sick, had to be hospitalized. And like while she was sick, if I was at work and she was at the house, um, she would tell me like she would hear what sounded like the doorknob to the garage or like the garage door shaking. Um, and I thought that was like, okay, here we go again. I'm gonna have all this same crap.
We've been off the air for the last like 3 minutes, just so we all know.
Oh no.
Yep. Yep. Lost the signal.
Hmm.
Unless anybody else out there could see it, but I don't know. On my end, it shut everything down.
I could still see it.
You could?
Yeah.
Could you guys in the chat hear and see everything? What the hell? It shut down here. I was completely off. Well, anyway, all right, continue. Sorry. Must have just been me. Must have just been me.
So yeah, anyways, so my new girlfriend in the new house, who's the girl who's now my wife, um, she started getting sick and stuff like that, and telling me that she started experiencing it was whenever I was at work and she was at home. Um, she would like feel like this heavy energy. She would start to hear like what sounded like somebody was trying to come through the garage door. My thoughts were, here goes, here we go again with the same crap. I'm like, what do I even do? And I actually talked to her straight up front about it and told her what my previous experiences were and stuff like that, and she's like totally accepting of everything that I had to say, my thoughts about it. And she's like, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder if you got something going on here. And one of the things she recommended was, well, why don't you, because like I said, the house was completely bare. I didn't care about decorating or buying shit. I just got the hell out of the last place, set up in a new house, and I'm like, bare bones. She's like, well, let's try to make it more like a house. Let's kind of put our touch on it and make it like ours. So if there is something here, you can sort of set the ground rules. Like, this is your place now. Okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. So one of the days that she was at work and I had off, I went to my storage unit where I had a bunch of my shit and brought it over, and I had like paintings and pictures and stuff like that I put on the wall. And one of the, well, I guess it was two. It's one painting, but it's in two separate frames. But it's a painting of like this Victorian house, and there's like you can see like the old couch and stuff like that, and the fireplace and whatever. And I had put that on the wall, and I put some other stuff on the wall. And she came, she got off of work, she comes there, and I'm showing her. I'm like, look, I took your advice. I decorated. What do you think? And she's looking at the paintings, and she's like, why is that one backwards? Did you mean to do that? And I'm like, what? And I look at it, and they're actually inverted, so the picture didn't make sense anymore. And I'm like, I'm telling you, that was not like that. Like, I looked at this thing like at least 10 times, making sure that it was straight and all this other shit. Like, that's creepy. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. So I put them back correctly. And that night, we were sitting on the couch watching a movie. It was late at night, and out of nowhere, like the door going out to the garage just starts shaking like super hard. Like, we both experienced it. I mean, she'll tell you, if I brought her in here right now, she'd be like, oh yeah, it literally sounded like somebody was trying to break in the door. And I thought it was somebody breaking in the door, so I jump up, I go out in the garage. Of course, there's nobody there. The door to the outside, the exterior of the garage is locked. There's nothing. There was nobody there. Um, the weird thing too was when the door was shaking, you could see like light under it. When I went out in the garage, the light wasn't on. Yeah, and she's like, it's getting worse. I'm like, I can tell, Um, so she had me actually take all that crap, which was stuff that I had from my original house. She's like, get rid of all that stuff. Like, I don't care what you got to do. Something's attached to something. Hopefully, it's not attached to you. Get rid of that shit. And so I did. And I don't know if it was coincidental or things just paused long enough, but I got rid of the shit. Her mother actually, or I should say my wife's grandfather, his house, her mother was going to rent out. So we're like, we'll rent that. So we moved like in a hurry. I called the rental management company, and I'm like, hey, we got a family thing. We got to go. We're going to end the lease. You can keep my deposit. I don't care. And we moved, and we never had issues like that again. So I still don't know what the cause of it was. She's got a theory, well, a couple of theories, but she thinks that um, something was attached to either some of the stuff that I brought from the old house, or all of it, or something along those lines. May not have been previously, but we definitely think there was something in that house, the original house. When I bought it, there was something there already. Maybe when I brought things there, it attached to those things and then followed me from place to place.
Well, that's a common thing, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, she's real adamant about not buying used stuff. Like, don't go to antique stores and buy stuff. Don't go to the flea market. And I mean, some things maybe, but she really doesn't like it because she's like, you never know. It's
You don't.
She's like, you don't know what it was that was causing all that. And I mean, we went through so much. I mean, there's probably 20 other small, experiences that I could go on about, but it's more of the same crap that was happening before, and now things are calm.
I wonder. Real quick, E-Rev, thank you so much. Shade, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. Obviously this stuff can attach to things, right? What do you think, Do?
Yes, it's a lot of things they can attach to, especially something they used during their life. A rocking chair, notorious. An old walking cane, things like that. Or their personal items, their rings, and jewelry and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely. I used to carry my K2 meter with me when I went to the flea market or went to the
Ooh,
antique mall.
good
And I
idea.
scanned a few things, to make sure that there wasn't anything on it before I did bring it home, But
Yeah.
these, my wife's got a bunch of these old Tiny Tears dolls, and they still give me the creeps. I mean,
Yeah, my wife's got a porcelain doll collection, and I won't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We woke
What
up
is it
one
about
night.
the dolls? It's
There was
freaky.
a party going on one night in the living room, and I walked. There wasn't a soul in there, but there was a
Wow.
bunch of kids talking, and I told them, I said, "Shut up, or I go back to bed."
I don't like it.
I want to show this real quick, Do what you sent me. I can't. I'm gonna have to show it with my phone. I can't. I can't do it with the email right now. This is the cat.
We don't know what that is. That's exactly the spot where the cat we had that the neighbor's dog killed. That's where it lay all the time. And this is probably a year or two after the cat had passed away.
Okay, so check this out.
I built
guys.
the little Stickman 2000. That's what I call it.
Oh wow.
That's my wife Dolores, and she's kept telling it to take her hand, and eventually it will reach up and take her hand. She said it had a cold feeling to it.
So crazy. There it goes.
There it went, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Oh, yep, there it is. It's holding her hand. Get the hell out of here. That's nuts, man.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Those little things are fairly simple to build.
The
Not much to
SLS.
'em.
hmm
Yeah, not much to them.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't let me build one when we lived at the previous house. So the one that we were living in before we just bought this one recently, the previous house was her grandfather's house, and I mean we're pretty certain her grandfather would come visit and stuff like that. He was into woodworking, and he used to make like handmade flies for fishing and stuff like that. Like he liked to tinker with stuff all the time, and he had all kinds of stuff in the garage still when we moved in there. Her mother didn't know what to do with it all. I'm like, well, leave it there. If there's something I can use, I'll use it. Don't get rid of it. And we used to always hear stuff in the garage. It was always his tools like moving around and stuff like that. And it never failed. If I rearranged like the toolboxes, you would hear like a huge crash in the garage, and everything would be knocked over. He did not like you rearranging his stuff. Um, and I wanted to do like an investigation in our old house, and she refused. She's like, no. She's like, she's like, I know I feel my grandfather's presence here. It feels positive. It's not, bad energy or whatever. I'd rather leave it that way if it's
Right.
if I don't want to see something else that's negative or misinterpret something and then get spooked by it. She's like, I feel comfortable here. I'd
Sure.
rather keep it that way. So I respected her wishes there. But yeah, I mean, you used to feel like you could be standing there and you would feel somebody just go like this, like put their hand, on your arm or on your shoulder, whatever, like that. Tons of times she would say that.
Mhm.
And
That was what happened. We went to years ago. When we broke into Norwich State Hospital here. There was about 6 of us, I think. We were all in our early 20s, and just not, at least I didn't have a fear in the world. I didn't care. Nothing scared me then. Um,
did we lose Kyle again?
Did he freeze up again? Yeah, that's fresh. That is kind of a. I've read a few things about that when somebody gets a new organ or something from a donor, and especially eyes. I've heard that they have seen things they had never seen before.
no,
Things like that. So it's definitely some strange stuff going on with that.
well, I froze. Apparently, everyone's saying.
Kyle, they lost you again.
Yeah, this is terrible internet. What am I supposed to do? So anyway, let me finish telling this quick story before I lose it again. So we go to North State Hospital, and there's 6 of us. There's like 3, 4 guys and 3 girls. I forget what it was, but the girls were trying to be tough, go along with this whole plan of going into this empty asylum. And we're downstairs in one of the tunnels. And we got flashlights, but it's dark. It's even with flashlights. You're pointing them that way. You can't see that way. Like, it's pitch black. All of a sudden, one of my buddies goes, "Did you just put your hand on my shoulder?" And I'm like, "No. What are you talking about?" He's like, you didn't put your hand on my shoulder." I said, "Why would my hand on your shoulder? This isn't a romantic date night. Like, no." And he's like, "Are you serious?" And I swear to God, I put my hand. So now he's looking around. Did one of you girls do it? No, no one put their hand on your shoulder. And then, like 2 seconds later, one of the girls jumps, and she was like, "Someone touched me on my back. Someone touched me on my back." That was it. Everybody just took off, man. Just took off running. I'm glad it wasn't me. I wouldn't want to feel anyone touch me that wasn't there. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. I've smelled my grandmother's perfume before, Felicia.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've smelled it so strong, and it's not one of those perfumes like she did. Like this is from a different era. Like she wasn't wearing Victoria's Secret or Blue by whatever and Chanel, and this was like some old lady perfume. You know what I mean? Like, but to it was my grandmother's smell, so you never forget it. And I remember smelling it a couple times.
Exactly. My grandmother wore some kind of powder she had on, and I can still get a whiff of that every once in a while. And my sister she would use that sand and sable, and I tell you what, I get a whiff of that pretty regular. But the one I get the most is my daddy smoked cherry blend tobacco in a pipe, and we constantly smell that over the house here. And my brother, he was a tobacco farmer. And the smell I attribute to him is just a tobacco barn, But we get that smell pretty regular too. So I usually tell them hi, thank them for visiting, and everything's fine.
Yeah, the smells is very common, right? That to me, that's not so nerve wracking. Like you get a smell that reminds you of somebody, it's your grandmother, it's your dad smoking his pipe or whatever. That's a good thing. Like I'm okay with that. You get a smell that smells like sulfur or something like that. You better get the hell out. Time to go. Time to go.
Definitely.
And unless maybe your partner or housemate had some bad food a little while beforehand, then maybe there might be a more reasonable explanation for it. Might just be time for gas X.
Right.
Thank you very much, Trish. I appreciate you. Felicia says her mother wore Avon. I feel like my grandmother bought stuff from Avon too. I know it was like a big thing back then. When I was a baby, we lived in a haunted house. Mom, right? We lived in that red house on Lower Bartlett. What the hell went on there? Wasn't it something with the attic? I was a baby. I don't remember. I just remember stories.
I hate attics. I hate them.
They're weird, man. Attics and basements. They're creepy. They're creepy. And it's funny because if you watch these shows, it's no coincidence. Like when they go into these places, the place that has the most activity generally is the attic or the basement. It's
Because they're
where
not
these
heavily trafficked. I think you don't
right. It's where they go to
occupy that
hide.
space. So they can hide there.
Yep, it's where they go to hide. Yep, absolutely. Crazy. She said the door would open and close. It was one of those weird latch doors too, correct? I think it was one of those doors that had that latch where you had to lift up on the thing and it would latch behind a plate.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I think I could be completely wrong, but maybe this is how. And again, right? So here you go. I was a baby when we were in this haunted place, and I think it cursed me ever since. I think that's how it all started. So thanks, Mom. Oh
I
God.
know it's wild though when you start experiencing, like we were saying earlier, it's people say it's like lifting the veil or whatever, you're cracking the shell, whatever, however you want to say it. As soon as you start to experience that, I mean, it never goes away. You become sensitive to all kinds of different energy. I
You
feel like
do.
anyway.
You do. Yeah. You do. I said, like, I was talking with oh, who the hell was I talking with this about the other day? I forget. We were having a conversation about the Sasquatch thing, and I was like, people think you're crazy when you say it, but like, you, I know, like, when I've gone to places before anything's happened, I've known that something would, because I instantly get that feeling.
Hmm.
Everything changes. It's you're having a normal hike in the woods. It's no, whatever. It's everything's fine. You're outside. You're having a good time. All of a sudden, you get this feeling, and it's so like visceral, where the hair stands up. You feel like somebody or something is watching you and watching you very intently.
Oh yeah.
um the whole energy changes, and sure enough, after that feeling, at some point something would happen, even if it was something very benign. It could have been just one knock, but like, didn't matter. You could feel it prior to it happening. I
Hmm.
think that's something that happens to people after they've been um, exposed to this stuff, over a period of time. Is, like you said, you get more sensitive to these things.
Yeah, it's cool that my wife has experienced some of this stuff with me. I mean, it sucks for her, I guess, but
Yeah.
um, but at least I know if I hear something or she hears something or we sense something or whatever, see something, we don't think each other is crazy. Like we kind of acknowledge or try to, guess what it could be, or if we think it's a person, who it could be or whatever.
Mm.
So it takes some of the scariness away from it. Um, Luckily, we haven't experienced anything like we did before. Yeah, and that's I think when I put in the chat before, almost felt like poltergeist activity, the way the things were going down at that house.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
luckily,
Stuff moving, doors shaking and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you feel like you're under attack,
Mm.
and wasn't the first time that somebody had said that they saw, uh, or a child had said there was a man in the closet, a tall, shadow-looking man in the spare room closet. Two completely different people, never met each other, never talked about it. Um, and I had never told that the girl I was dating at the time about what I had experienced. And when she described it coming across the house, I'm like, okay, well,
Yep.
I'm not crazy. Definitely, somebody else saw it too. Completely independent witness, I guess.
Sure, yeah. And when you get that, when you get that affirmation, it's like,
Mhm.
what part of you feels like, okay, I'm not crazy, that's good, but then the other part of you is like, all right, now what do you do?
Yeah,
Now where do I go with this?
but it felt different. Like when I say that at our previous house, we used to experience what we thought was her grandfather coming to visit, or her grandmother, or like my dad, stuff like that. It never felt like a bad energy. Like
Right.
you feel like a presence there. Sometimes it even feels like a warm presence, like something positive.
Sure.
Versus back then at that house, I mean, it had a really heavy negative energy. I mean, it just felt really oppressive and like made you feel like you were not welcome there at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's scary, man. It's not a fun feeling to feel anywhere, especially in your own home, where you're
yeah, and
supposed to
I'm
feel
still
the
curious to this
safest.
day, like who the hell was that guy that called me and started asking me questions about that? Like,
Yeah, that's weird, man.
It is
I'll
weird.
never know who that was, but it's still like I think about it and I'm like, man, I really wish I would have started having that dialogue with the guy, regardless of who it was, even
Yeah.
if he was some weirdo. Because I'm like, how did he even get my number? Because my house was listed for sale under a real estate company, not my personal phone number listed anywhere on it. But this guy called my cell phone, knew who I was, asked me about the house, and then asked me those questions about it being haunted. I'm like, man,
Weird.
that's screwed up. So
You think you
I
think he
had
may have sensed something, maybe, by
yeah,
driving by, maybe, or
yeah. So
I
I
can
had
do that. I mean,
yeah. Well, so I mean, I had many people come and look at the house and all that stuff. So part of me wondered if this guy had come to look at the house, maybe interested in buying it, experienced something or felt something or saw something or whatever, and was like, "Whoa, I should ask the guy." Because I mean, you look at the county record, the tax records, you could find out who owns it, and then
yeah,
you know,
Or
back then,
maybe it wasn't a guy who came to see the house at all. Maybe it was one of the spirits in the house that was messing with you
not
and
not
called
entirely
you.
out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, realistically, it's not, right? It can't be.
That's creepy. That's
It's
really creepy.
creepy. I mean,
'Cause what if it was?
how weird. I mean, there's been crazy stuff. Crazier things have happened, right? I mean, who knows if it wasn't somebody who lived there at one point and somehow they is it haunted? Just to see what you'd say. Maybe just to F with you a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know this is a far out theory, but there's very weird stuff at work in this world. So,
Well,
oh
you
yeah,
hear stories about people getting weird phone calls and talking
oh
to
yeah.
somebody who's not, or,
yeah.
somebody who was dead for
Hmm.
either years or
Mhm.
decades or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, you hear stories about people getting in cars that have been dead for years, and all of a sudden they disappear in the back seat.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have 'em. I mean, everybody's got, I think, this the story about a hitchhiker in there around where they live, right? The disappearing hitchhiker.
Oh yeah.
We got one here in like 15 minutes away in or 25 minutes away in Sterling, and then there's the one in Union, which is the really famous one. That's the one where Ed and Lorraine Warren had investigated that cemetery and that road many times and actually caught the lady on in a picture
Man.
um, in her white dress walking down the road and then by a grave in the cemetery, which was really, I mean, it's a clear picture too. It's really creepy. But I mean, you just like there's just what are the rules for this stuff, right? What rules does it have to abide by, if any? Um, it depends on who you ask. I've heard that they can't physically harm you; it can cause you to harm yourself, right? It can manipulate your mind so much that you hurt you.
Mhm.
People kill themselves or whatever. Um,
Bounce, bounce
Oh,
off trees trying to get out of the way, or
yeah,
flying in
yeah.
traffic or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. So, having something in your house that's moving stuff around and all, the thought process would, if it was me and I was there, was happening to me, would be, if this thing can shake doors, create its own light behind the door, like there's not, I don't know how there's anything it can't do. So,
Yeah.
time to
And
get the hell out.
I fully believe it can influence somebody's thought patterns or
Sure.
whatever. Like it's, I mean, everything that goes on in our brain is all energy. It's all electrical pulses and things like that. So if spirits or whatever can manifest into, or use electricity to manifest into something visual, or to impose a force on an object or make a sound or whatever, surely they can do something, in some way influence electrical impulses in your brain.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I know when I was in that house and going through the foreclosure stuff and all that, I mean, I was like in a really bad depression, and it felt like that was when that thing really started to ramp it up
Yeah.
and started doing stuff to screw with me. There were so many nights that I didn't get a wink of sleep because for one, I couldn't sleep in the master bedroom anymore. I mean, I used to see that shadow thing after my ex-girlfriend had said that she saw it. I started seeing, or at least I felt like I was seeing out of the corner of my eye, this thing coming through the doorway. I would not sleep in the bedroom. I started sleeping on the couch all the time. I'd be sleeping on the couch, starting to fall asleep. All of a sudden, I'd hear noises or sound like somebody walking towards me, or they would feel like somebody's standing over me, like right here. And I would wake up and I'm like, I just felt like I was being screwed with constantly. And, thank God I got the heck out of that house and all that stuff's done and over with. But man,
Now you just have Sasquatch activity going on.
yeah, yeah. And like before, I wasn't looking for it.
Yeah.
I never came here thinking, oh, I'm going to find a Bigfoot.
Right.
No, it's like, oh, I got here and I'm like, what is going on? There's weird stuff going on. And it wasn't until putting all these different things together, and I'm like, I'm starting to lean towards kind of what you're saying here. It makes
Mm-hmm.
sense, but yeah,
Real quick, have a good night, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a wonderful day with your families. For those of you who are checking out, yeah, man, it's what I mean. So this stuff it's like it leaves some kind of residue on you, and
mhm.
whatever that residue is, it attracts the other stuff. All of it just kind of. Oh, he's got some of that stuff on him. Let's go there. See what's
Yeah,
going on.
like
Yeah.
they notice, they could tell that you recognize these things or that you're receptive.
I think they all enjoy an audience to some degree.
Yeah.
Even the Sasquatch, even the younger Sasquatch. I don't think the older ones do so much. Like I think the younger ones like an audience. The older ones not so much. But go ahead, Dewey. I'm sorry.
I was going to tell you that I forgot to mention it earlier. My granddaddy used to drive a hearse for the local undertaker. And this wasn't a vehicle. It was actually a horse and carriage, horse-drawn hearse. The undertaker had two of them, he got a black team of horses and a black hearse. Then he had a white team of horses and a white hearse. My granddaddy always drove the one with the white horses and the white hearse. And I'm pretty sure he probably brought a few things home with him. They used to go out in the country. The funeral was held at people's houses back then. They didn't go to the funeral home much. Anyway, they'd prepare the body and carry it to the house and have the funeral. And they'd take it from there to the cemetery. And but he was laying there in bed one night, and he heard something. Sound like somebody fell down the stairs. They had an upstairs attic, had these steps, coming down the wall. He said, "Sound like somebody fell down the steps." And he went to open, said, "Are you okay?" So he went to open the door up, and there was a casket. There was an old wooden coffin sitting there at the bottom of the steps. That's what he had heard coming down. He had heard coming bumping down the steps,
Oh.
and so he reached for it to see if he could see who was in it, which I would never would have done. But anyway, he said he reached for it and he woke up. And he had that dream probably a dozen times or so. It was the very same identical dream, and he never did find out who was in that coffin, But
Wow.
Probably better off.
Brought home from him, with him when he was driving the hearse.
Probably better off that you didn't find out who was in that coffin.
Yeah, he may have found out one time and then might not have bothered him again, but I don't know.
Real quick, I want to address this. Felicia asked if anyone's ever seen a shadow man that looked like he had a wide brim hat on. That's the one that looked like in my house. Yeah. Okay, so this, if you guys aren't familiar with the Hat Man, is what he's called. It's a very, very common occurrence in a lot of people. Sometimes it's in their dreams, or people physically see him. But he's a spooky, shadowy figure, often described as wearing a dark coat and a hat. The Hat Man is reported to appear in bedrooms when people are falling asleep or first waking up. He's become sleep paralysis lore, but like people, it's left a lot of people in both the paranormal world and the science world like kind of scratching their heads because the sleep paralysis thing doesn't line up for a lot of it. And there's a lot of things that follow the Hat Man that are bad, like bad shit happens. So I'm hoping that that's not who it was that was in your house, just because it's not generally not a good thing, but yeah, weird stuff. I think he's like explains a little black magic, blah 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 blah. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, the Hat Man, creepy shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Whoa, Rev. Whoa, buddy. Man, I listen. I appreciate that. You guys got to stop doing this though, because I don't have enough content to put out for members. It's just terrible. And I feel like an asshole. There's all these members out here, and I'm like, I put out like 2 pictures last month for just members only.
That's all right. I mean, for me, if it helps keep the channel going, then that's good enough.
Well, the channel will keep going regardless. But the thing is like I want to do more. That's the biggest thing. Like I want to expand this channel further. I want to be able to go more places, like I've been trying to do. Like the New Hampshire trip, the day trip to October Mountain. Me and Brian are going back. I believe the Monday or Tuesday after Thanksgiving. We're going back to October Mountain at night. We're gonna leave at night. We're going to drive up, and we're bringing a big spotlight and the thermal with us, and we're going to drive around that place on all those roads, trying to catch some kind of thermal signature, eye shine, whatever. Hop out, go walk in the woods, just me and him, nobody else. And these are the things I want to continue to do. Obviously, the nighttime stuff you don't want. I won't do it by myself. It's just it ain't going to happen, dude. It's not. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. But to be able to have the equipment to do things like a thermal, night vision, whatever, it makes it obviously better. So any of this stuff does help, right? And I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Just so you guys know, I will. I did say like I'm going to start doing like partial streams and stuff. Like I'll maybe do like a partial stream for members only, and then bring in everybody else like later on, or vice versa when I go out live in the woods. And then like for when I do the edited videos, I'll probably release it early for the members, just so there's something to look forward to. But I don't want to leave you guys without anything. It's just difficult. It's hard. It takes a lot of time to do all this stuff. The editing videos is such a pain in the ass.
Sure.
It takes a long time. It's very monotonous. I'm not great at it, so it takes me even extra long. But yeah, man. I'm gonna do some more stuff. I want to travel. I want to go to these other like crazy places. You know, I talked to Alex about going to British Columbia, up to Canada, to some of these like crazy hotspots up there, Vancouver Island, like where there's been just so much history of crazy activity with these things. You know, in order to do that, I need help. The channel needs help and needs support, you know, and obviously I don't expect anyone to. Um, you know, I know it's not a good time for anybody. So, but it's out there just in case, you know, anyone felt like they could, then I am very grateful.
You still think about doing the PayPal?
I put it up. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I posted the PayPal, I posted the Cash App, and I posted the Salty's idea. I posted the Amazon wish list.
Oh,
Okay.
sweet. I didn't even see
So
that.
I
yeah,
didn't see it. That's why I was asking. I didn't see it.
it's in the description, all the way at the
Okay.
bottom. Yep, in the
Okay.
description
Okay.
of the
I got
video,
you.
all the way at the
Okay.
bottom. And now listen,
I'll have to go to YouTube to see it.
listen. That Amazon wish list, it's like 4 things or 5 things. I think it's the only things that I really feel like I want or need for this. Unfortunately, they're all expensive, right? They're not cheap. It's a drone. It's thermal. It's night vision. It was a battery bank and a new recorder. That's it. That's it. I'm not looking for, you know, a ton of, you know, crazy stuff. Just the stuff that you need to do this the right way at night when these things are more active.
So Kyle, there's a couple different thermal cameras that you can get too that will actually plug into the USB-C port on the bottom of your phone,
I
Mhm.
saw that.
and
I
they're only
saw
a couple
those.
$100 too. You can get them. I want to say for like two something.
The ones that I saw, because I was reading. The other thing is like you don't want to get crappy stuff either because some of them are crap. Um, the ones that have the good, like have pretty good ratings. I think the cheapest one was like $300 for the phone. Which again, like I think I just forgot to put it on the list. But yeah, that's that. Obviously, shit. Yeah. Then what's cool about that too is you plug it into your phone. I could then live stream a thermal video,
Yeah, exactly.
right? How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Imagine going
amazing.
out at night in the woods doing a
Right.
live thermal.
Yeah,
That
so
would be really cool.
that's definitely I just got to put it on the list. I don't know why it didn't. And I noticed that earlier, but I was rushing to get the show. It's just stuff that, you know, if you want to do this stuff seriously, which again, I started this, it was just kind of for fun to try to learn more um, about this stuff and get answers. And now it's like, I have the bug, man. I have the bug. I
Because
just want to go.
you went down the rabbit hole.
I went down
Yeah.
the rabbit hole and I just want to go, like, keep going. I am like fully dedicated. And I was telling this to the guys the other day, like, um, Alex lives to like 2.5 hours from me in New Hampshire, which isn't that far, right? It's not a bad trip at all. Brian lives an hour away from me, hour and 10 minutes to the east of me. You know, that's not that far. Lucci lives like, I think 2 hours west of me. That's not that far. There he is right there. Look at him.
Hope so he
Just
could
as I
add stuff.
mentioned, Mike, just as I mentioned Mike
You
Lucci,
conjured
he
him up.
popped in the chat. Look at that. One of my favorite people on the planet, too. I love that kid. Um, so he doesn't live too far. Alex doesn't live too far. Brian doesn't live too far. The tough thing is getting people together, right? Is getting people free from work, Alex from his travel, all that stuff, so that we can go do this. If these guys were free, I would literally go out every week. I do an overnight. I do a camping trip. I do like every week. I would. That's how much I want to get out. So Brian's probably had it with me because I'm like, we're done with the trip up there in October Mountain during the day, and I'm already going. When are we going back? When are we coming back? We got to get back here. We got to come back here at night. You know what I mean? Like, I got to get out there, man. I got to get out there. It's where I'm supposed to be. So anyway, Socks, yes, I'll add some socks. Oh, by the way, uh, we are stepping up. I did get these bad boys.
Yeah, those are
Wow.
sweet.
I did get these bad boys, right? So we are making progress here. Went to Cabela's. Thank God for Black Friday deals. They were, but no, regular hiking boots and shoes that I wear. Like if it's wet and muddy, which it's wet and muddy up here, especially during the winter, my feet get soaked, man. So I watched Alex when we were up in New Hampshire with his mucks on, literally walking through streams and rivers and just, nothing. It didn't bother him one bit. And I'm like, I got to get some of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bought those the other day. They're pretty comfortable. They're pretty comfortable. So we're moving in the right direction anyway.
Back in the day, we used to put bread sacks put our socks on and put a bread sack over our sock and then put our boot on,
absolutely.
and it would keep the feet dry,
We used to do it with shopping bags. We should tie
Yeah.
shopping bags around your feet, especially like at work. When I worked outside in the winter, because work boots wouldn't keep your feet dry.
No.
That snow would sneak in between the laces, and you get
Oh,
soaked
yeah,
and freezing cold. Yeah, oh yeah. We tied bags around our feet. Yep. Then your feet sweat like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just crazy, man. Crazy. It's like your feet got wet with the snow at the end of the day, but at least they're not cold. Felicia, where are you at again? I don't remember where you're at.
She's in Kentucky.
Oh, that's right. She's in Kentucky. Yeah, I mean, again, like I talked to Dewey about going down there. I still want to go down to see Donnie. I want to go see Mark Green in Arkansas. I can go down to Salty's house if he'll have me down there and see what kind of crazy stuff he's got going on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if I could go to these places, if I financially could do it, I would do it in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. And that, like, at least for me, I know that when I watch channels, which I don't watch a whole lot of TV, I watch mostly YouTube. That's what I watch.
Same here.
Yeah, because you can pick what you want to watch, right? And the
Yeah.
subject matter. And so I watch this stuff still all the time. And I love watching when people go and they investigate these places, these different places, because it's like you get excited. You're like, oh, what are they going to find? What kind of evidence are they going to come up with? Like, it's just fun. It's interesting. It's exciting, man.
It's hard for me because, like, I got into watching some of the other channels that investigated stuff like this, and there was too many of them that before long you start seeing they're pulling fast when they're faking
yeah.
some crap and stuff like that. You're like, oh, still frame. Oh, look, there's a person. Like, that's your buddy. I could tell by his haircut. Look at his face. Like, that's clearly.
Yeah.
Like, you set that up, and I would just get so mad that I'm like, screw all this crap. I'm not watching any of it anymore. And
that's a big problem.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. But this is why, I feel very, very fortunate that, like, I have surrounded myself with people in this community who are, very, very reputable folks. People complain about Alex and Small Town Monsters, and they'll go, "Oh, another video about hiking again." But they're not there to fake shit. They're there to show you what happens for real. And most of the time, it's not going to be this crazy, lots of stuff going on and on. That's just not how it goes. Mike Lucci's not going to go out there and set up a hoax or lie about evidence. Like, no, that's not who these guys are. And so I'm fortunate to be learning from them too. I mean, they've been doing it longer than I have.
Yeah, you get networked with these guys that are legit, and
yeah, Mike Ann and like Tactical Bigfoot. Come on, dude, you kidding me? Like that. And to me, like, please, I want you to understand. being a fan of this subject and this stuff, like I've watched Alex in his movies for how long? Probably since he started doing the small town monsters thing. You know, I was a fan of his prior to ever being his friend. So to be able to say like, yeah, he's a buddy, and
Pretty
to
cool.
be able to pick his brain,
Mhm.
to be able to, or somebody like Mike Ann, who's a police officer by trade and like an investigator, like, you know, that's what he does. And to be able to talk to him and say, hey, Mike, what do you think about this? Or, you know, Lucci, who's he's another one. His mind is crazy. Like I don't know how somebody's mind works the way his works, but yeah, man, I'm fortunate. So if I don't put those things to use, I feel like it's being wasted, and I want to put them to use. I want to be able to go out with these guys, get us all together, and do these big investigations. The plan right now is to get like 7 or 8 of us to the Berkshires in the spring, and to do 2-man teams at night, 4 2-man teams going in separate directions, in trucks, you know, in vehicles with walkie talkies, and you know, hopefully we can, you know, somehow maybe push these things into one area and get something. That's the plan anyway.
Yeah.
That's the spring. We're not done yet. We still got the winter to go, and I am not, the snow doesn't stop me. I'm out in the snow. I don't give a shit. It doesn't bother me. Not one bit. So we do, yeah, Mike, we do. Well, hey, listen, man. Listen, I'm, yeah, next week, bro. Next week, dude, we could go up to Northwest Connecticut. I'm free. Let's do it. Anyway, sorry. I get off on these tangents. What if they are not ethereal or whatever, but just have the best knowledge of interterrestrial stuff? Are you talking about we talking about the Sasquatch here? Or are we talking about like paranormal stuff? What if they're not ethereal or whatever, but just have the best knowledge of interterrestrial stuff? And you guys want to take that question? What if they are not ethereal or whatever, but just have the best knowledge of interterrestrial stuff? I believe he's talking about, I think you're talking about the paranormal. Or no. Okay. Oh, he's talking about Sasquatch traveling through caves. Okay. All right. I
Yeah.
see.
Like they're not spiritual energy or any sort of thing like that. They're just,
They just know the lay of the land well.
yeah.
Yeah, they've been here for hundreds of years, you know. So they know
This
the way
is-
around.
You know, like evolution is literally like that's that to me, like that's it. The evolution is, these things are made to exist in their environment perfectly. Over time, they adapt in the ways that they need to continue to remain mostly hidden from humans. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're you know, all these things. They're gonna know the woods and the like. It's just like, you know, your living room. You know, if a lamp is moved in your living room, you're gonna know.
Oh yeah.
Think about it that way. They're gonna know if there's a rock turned over. Like, they'll know. It's just like we pulled up we got out on October Mountain. We pulled up. We've been driving around for 30 minutes. We pull into this one field. We get out of the truck, and within a minute, 2 knocks, they knew we were there. I mean, they knew we were coming, and they let their friends know, and then they went silent.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I wonder too if they're in any way related to the skinwalker type things.
Oh God, I hope not. I hope not, but you wonder, because there's stories where they overlap a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, you can see things trekking through the woods. I remember watching a couple of videos on YouTube of what looked to be like a Sasquatch off in the background walking through or making their way through some trees at a regular pace, and then all of a sudden it's just not there anymore. Like it'll go behind a tree, doesn't come out the other side. Like, where did it go? Or you see like activity, you hear sounds of loud roars or whatever, and then you try to investigate or you wait it out to see what's coming, and there ends up being like a rabbit, and you're like, clearly a rabbit didn't make those sounds.
Didn't
Yeah,
make those
exactly.
sounds.
Did it
Yeah, exactly.
change
Yeah.
its appearance, sort of, can it morph into something else? um I don't know.
I think it's all possible.
You know what's wild? So I meant to mention this before, and I wish I could find it. I'm gonna keep looking. There were videos on YouTube that clearly, so that it wasn't somebody trying to record a Sasquatch. It was somebody just recording themselves outside, and you could see this stuff going on in the background. And I remember there was like the top of a hill, and there was a tree line, and you can see this thing walking across. And I remember going, "Holy crap, that's crazy." So I paused it and I went and got my wife, and I'm like, "You got to see this. Like, it's the wildest thing." And I backed up the video, and when I played it back, it wasn't there.
Come on.
I swear, like, it freaked me out because I'm like, "How in the hell?" I didn't go off of the video, nothing like that. I literally like just backed it up and tried to find the spot where I saw this. Couldn't find it again. And that's happened a couple of times. Um, and that's where I started thinking, like, I wonder if it's somehow presenting itself to you like when it wants to or whatever. Like, I don't understand it. But
Well, the one of the scariest theories is that somehow these non-human intelligent entities can access us through our technology, right? So that means that they can come and go through your technology, through your computer screen or your internet access or whatever. So if that's the case, I mean, one of these things could pop in and out of your computer, potentially even having some kind of visual silhouette, maybe. I mean,
well,
I don't
so
know.
what I was wondering was, like, whatever it was, I wasn't supposed to see it,
Hmm.
you know? I saw it, went, "Holy crap," went to go show my wife. Now, what if, like, some kind of veil is being put over it now, like, "Oh, you weren't supposed to see that," and it's
Hmm.
preventing me from seeing it again. And now that I'm telling her, describing what I saw, and I'm like, "No, this is like, I swear I saw this. You can see clearly this thing in the background at the tree line at the top of the hill." And she's looking at me like there's nothing there, and I'm like, "I'm telling you, it was there." Like, I didn't get that worked up for no reason. Like, I don't take these things lightly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
crazy. Yeah,
like, I
that's
was tripping out for a while after that. I'm like, "How in the hell?" And I would go back every once in a while and pull up that video and try to, like, let it play through all the way. Never saw it again.
that's freaky, dude.
Mhm.
That's really freaky. Mike, of course, Mike did this study. This is what I mean by this kid. He's just so smart. Literally did something on that recently. He was talking about the evolutionary process based on the study on mammal evolution. All signs would point to Sasquatch as being slow evolvers, which you could say means that they don't have to evolve because they're so well adapted to their environment. Well, how much are we evolving? Are we really evolving that much, like, to our environment around us every day? Like, we pretty much reached a point where now our evolution is very slow. The technology around us is evolving, but we're not,
We're more
right?
like adapting versus evolving
Yeah,
almost.
we're adapting to these things, this new technology and how to use it, but we've not evolved in the natural sense of the word. So we would be slow evolvers too at this point because we've reached such an apex, right? Um,
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
right. So Sasquatch, essentially for what they are and where they live, they probably are that thing there. They are the top of the food chain. They don't need to evolve much more. The only thing they have to worry about probably is us, and I don't even think that's really an issue. I mean, I just have a hard time thinking that even if somebody were to get a bead on one of these things and pop a shot off at it, number one, I think you'd probably have to be one hell of a sniper because they move so fast, and I'm sure their reaction time is ridiculous. Either that or and you'd have to have some serious lead in that gun. Serious lead. And I don't know that what most people carry in the woods with them is going to put it down.
Yeah, I don't think I would take the chance of shooting at it personally.
Nope. If it's not coming at me to kill me, I'm
Right, that's
definitely not
different.
taking a shot at it.
Yeah, like if something's charging at you, like how you described before, where you were basically like cornered
Yeah.
and something was rushing you and you felt like you're about to be attacked. That's an understandable situation because
Yeah,
what
because
else do you got?
your life is on the line, you're thinking,
Exactly.
right?
What else do you have at that point? But if you saw this thing at a distance and you were going to try to shoot it just because you want to capture it, I don't
Nope.
think, for one, I don't think you're going to get it. And two, whatever crap's going to come your way after shooting at this thing's probably not going to be good.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have more than one of them pissed off.
Yeah,
Because where there's one, there's more.
for sure.
And one's enough. It's more than enough to take you out. Trust me. So you get a whole family of these things coming after you. You are in a world of trouble, pal.
Well, you see
If
what
they
they can
don't,
do
the
when they're
government
being
will.
evasive or mischievous or whatever. Like, what are they going to do? What are they capable of if you really anger them? Like, you tried to
Well,
shoot one of them, like, man.
I just think of that story from back in the 60s or 70s from the Bridgewater Triangle about that police officer who was sitting in his car, and he was sitting there. He didn't have much to do. It was nighttime, and all of a sudden, something lifted his cruiser off the ground from behind
Wow.
and then dropped it. And he hit the brakes instinctively, and the lights lit up this giant, hairy, bipedal hominid. The thing growled at him and then took off into the woods. And he said it was massive. So, I mean, think about that. This is back in the 60s or 70s when cars were made out of metal, right? They
Oh,
weighed
yeah.
much more back then than they do now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the strength to do that is insane. But what's a cop car from the 60s or 70s weigh? Them old Chevys that they used to drive. I mean, it's got to
Oh,
weigh.
easily 3,000 or more pounds. Maybe
Yeah, it's
30.
got to. Let's
Yeah.
see if I can find that info. I'm curious. Did they always drive the Caprice? Was that like their main car?
They had those. They had the Ford Galaxies. They had.
Let's just say
There was a Dodge. What was it? Dodge Diplomat.
let's just say
There was a few different kinds. Oh, they even drove Chargers. I think
Mm-hmm.
Highway Patrol had Chargers.
Plymouth Fury, 1970, 440
Fury is
V8.
a little on the smaller side.
Yeah.
If you look up a Galaxy, like a 1970 Ford Galaxy, that's a big car. I know because I used to have one. That thing was a barge.
1970 Ford Galaxy. All right, let's look
Yep.
it up.
Yeah, it was an ex-highway patrol car. That thing was a land yacht.
1970 Ford Galaxy weight. 1970 Ford Galaxy weight. 3,500 pounds, man. 3,500 pounds, bro.
That's a lot.
3,540 to be exact. That's a lot.
Yeah, a man's not picking that up. I mean,
No, hell no. Good God, no. Not even the most juiced out weirdo in the world is picking that up. No way.
No.
That is insane strength. And now think about it. It picked the thing up, right? It just jacked it up off the ground and then just dropped it like it was nothing, took off. So that meant that it picked it up and it had more to go. It could do more if it just yanked it up off the ground like that, no problems, was no struggle. The guy didn't hear it grunt or any, just lifted it and dropped it like nothing. Like you and me would pick up a bag of groceries. You know what I'm saying? It's
Don't stand a
ridiculous.
chance against that.
Ridiculous, man. Yeah, the Bridgewater Triangle Octopus, it's a freaky place, man. It is a weird place. It's another one of those places. What's that?
Picking up that car reminds me of a deal back in my high school days. We had one of the football players. He was pretty large guy. He did a lot of weightlifting and everything. Well, we had this girl that drove us Volkswagen to school every day. Well, he got out there about every day when she's getting ready to leave, and he'd just go behind the car, pick it up by the bumper, and hold the back wheels off the ground. She'd sit there, rev it up, trying to go, and finally he'd just drop it and let her go, Well, she got tired of it one day. He picked it up, and she hit the brakes, put it in reverse, let the clutch out, and held the pedal to the floor, and made him stand there and hold that car until she figured he about had enough, So and she stopped it and he set it down. He didn't do that crap anymore,
Oh
It broke
my!
him from that.
Well, that's pretty impressive though that he lifted
Yeah.
that car off the ground like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're also probably talking about like he was probably using leg strength to do that, more like a squat, right? And a little Volkswagen that he's lifting the back end of a Volkswagen. That's not a big deal. I mean, it's still a big deal, but it's not like. This thing stood behind it, standing up, and just lifted it with its arms like that, and then just dropped it like it was curling a dumbbell.
Wow.
That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Well, they say a gorilla's strength is immeasurable. I mean, a gorilla, and that's you take that, you stretch it out by about how tall is a gorilla when it's standing on its feet? 5 feet tall, 6 feet.
Well, it depends. I mean, there's bigger ones.
But they're not too big, right? I mean, 6 feet. They're not like the gorillas aren't 7 feet tall when they're standing there because they only have them stumpy ass legs anyway. Like their legs are very short.
Yeah.
So I mean, you stretch one of them things out and then make it even bigger and broader up at the shoulders and the chest and all that. You're looking at, literally like Superman strength.
Yeah,
like
so silverback gorilla about 6.5 feet.
6.5 feet, really? Shit,
Yeah.
I thought they were shorter than that.
Well, that's one of the tallest recorded. So I'm sure average is probably, like you
About
say,
6,
somewhere between 5 and 6, probably.
Okay, but still, I mean, so
they're just stocky, all muscle too.
Well, yeah, I'm saying you take that and you add 3 feet to it, right? 8 feet, 9 feet, and then still built with that kind of muscle, if not more. Some of these things, some of them are skinnier depending on where you go or who you talk to. But a chimpanzee is not like a bodybuilder thick. They're lean and but again, just insane strength that they have. A chimpanzee would take all 3 of us out in an instant. In an instant. We would not we wouldn't stand a chance.
Those things are nuts.
They're not, and they're nasty.
They go from 0 to 100.
And they like to hurt. Like when it's time to go, they're not getting it over quick. They are effing you up in every way possible. They're breaking fingers, they're gouging eyes, they're ripping your hands off, they're shoving them up your ass. Like it's terrible stuff, man. Terrible stuff.
I shouldn't laugh.
What?
I said I shouldn't laugh at that because that's horrible, but
it's what they do.
Yeah.
They torture their prey or their enemies. Like that poor lady in Connecticut. I remember when that happened. Do you remember that? The pet? You don't remember that story? Oh my God, this lady. So she had a pet chimpanzee, right, for years. He was sexually mature, And he didn't. When other people came over, he got jealous because he looked at her as his mate, his owner. So when other people came over, he got jealous. He got angry. Sometimes he got out of control. So she would just give him fucking Xanax. She'd give him Valium, calm him down. Not supposed to give a chimpanzee Valium, first of all, I don't think. I'm not pretty sure that's against like ASPCA. But she'd give him, she'd calm him down. And her friend came over, and for whatever reason, he wasn't in a good mood that night. I don't think he had his daily dose of Xanax or whatever. And he attacked both the owner and the friend. And I think he killed the friend, and the owner had her, like, literally her whole face was destroyed. Like, everything on her face was ripped off. She had no nose left. She had no eyes left. She literally had a face transplant, a full face transplant, where they like made these prosthetic things just to try to make her look human again, dude. If you look her up, you look up like the Oprah interview, she doesn't look like a human being whatsoever. It was ripped off. I mean, ripped off. And what he did to the friend was even worse. Yeah, they are vicious. Vicious. Octopus says from chill to castration murder real quick.
Jeez. Yeah, I just looked up her picture. Holy cow.
How bad is that, dude?
That's awful.
Yeah, man. Yup. Terrible. Terrible. Oh, man. She was giving an alcohol and Xanax. That's, yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, right. But yeah, let's just feed
Nothing
it.
wrong with that. Yeah.
Let's feed a 200-pound chimpanzee who's as strong as 10 men, right? Let's give him some whiskey and a couple Xanax. I mean, listen, I see human beings take whiskey and Xanax and act like absolute animals. Probably not a good idea to actually give an animal that shit.
Well,
Good
I imagine
God.
he probably wasn't all there in the first place.
Who, her?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think she was like, I don't think she was like mentally ill. I just think I don't know. Who the hell knows, dude? I don't know. You got a chimpanzee that's, running around snapping his carrot at you all day, and you keep him. It's a little
Well, that's
weird.
what I'm saying. Like, why you would even be in that position in the first place?
Yeah. It's strange. It's very strange.
Yeah, why would you waste alcohol and Xanax on a monkey?
Touche.
It's not an expensive habit.
Oh God, that's crazy. Lady owner was unharmed. Wait, what lady owner? The owner of the monkey? No, she was destroyed. She was destroyed. One of them got killed, right? The friend got killed. And then the owner was survived. I forget. One of them definitely died. One of them definitely died. It was a bloody massacre. That's all I remember. It was terrible. Connecticut chimpanzee attack. Travis, that was his name. Travis. Attacked and mauled his owner's friend, blinding her. Oh, okay. So no, it was the friend. Okay. So the owner didn't get hurt. Okay. All right. So, well, there you go. Jesus Louise. Yeah, because that was his girlfriend. She looked at him like it was his girlfriend, the owner. And that was why he got jealous and whatnot. Even Michael Jackson had to distance himself from Bubbles as he grew afraid of him. Well, I mean, Michael probably had reasons to be afraid of him.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna get into that. That's
Not going down that rabbit hole.
that's weird on a whole different level, brother. That's weird on a whole different level. Yeah, I don't know how we both misremembered that the same, but yeah, it's one of those things, man. It's like, all I know is it was terrible. I remember it being this giant thing. Or Oprah trying to get her on the show to talk to her, and like, she had no eyes, she had no nose. She just like, I'm like, I don't even know. Just put a bullet in me at that point. I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm all set. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, that's just tough, man. Yeah, she had one of the first face transplants. Yeah. And how does that work? Like, what is that? Like, you wait for someone to die and then you go peel their face back and you go, well, let's see if we can fit this on to where all those, missing parts are on your face.
You got it.
I'm not trying to be mean, but like, that doesn't seem like that to me seems like the hardest transplant to possibly do.
It's worse too when it doesn't, when the body rejects it, and then it's basically
It's dying
off while it's still attached to the person.
Yeah. And any transplant that you get, your body naturally rejects. You have to take anti-rejection meds for every transplant, right? So imagine you get this facial transplant and then all of a sudden your body's like, no, I don't, not into this one. Let's see if we can get something a little prettier. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm good. Let's wait.
The return policy on this?
What's the return policy? This is a 75-year-old woman, for God's sakes. Like, can we get someone younger? Oh God, I'm terrible. I'm going to hell. I am definitely going to hell. So, and I called this show professional earlier.
That's okay. Fresh called us gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know who was more off, me or him. Oh God. Anyway, you gotta have a little fun, don't you? At the expense of others. All right, listen. Let's end this thing, man. I gotta get some rest. I didn't sleep good last night. Damn medicine, man. I don't know what the point of medicine is anymore either. They give you medicine to help with one thing, and it makes you feel like dog crap. They're like, oh, here, take this for this. But by the way, so what are your symptoms? Okay, you have a couple little. Okay, well, this medicine is going to make you, leak from your anus. It's going to cause massive headaches.
How about we trade the symptoms you have now for these other symptoms instead? How does that sound?
Yeah, you got 3 symptoms now. You're trading those in for 14 more symptoms, including anal seepage, uncontrollable gas.
Yeah,
terrible, man. It's terrible. Oh God, Mike said earlier that the medicine is kind of taking away the need for natural selection. Well, I don't know what kind of medicine you're taking. Shit they're giving me is not fun. Anyway, oh man. Well, listen, Salty, thank you very much for coming on the show. Again, really crazy stuff, dude. It's just it doesn't matter how much you hear this stuff. It's like, every time I hear it, I shouldn't get surprised, but I am still. It's like, damn, man, like guy had paranormal shit happening and now he's got Sasquatch stuff happening. Like, why? How? Why does this happen this way?
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's not negative like I had before, like I'm fine with it. I'm kind of embracing the new things I'm experiencing here. So
but that's the problem though, right? So you're lucky in the sense that what you got going on there right now is pretty, it's not nothing bad. Right? It's a little mischievous at times, but it's not crazy. But for people who walk into the situation that you walked into with your prior house, like that's a sucky situation.
Absolutely.
And they don't know where to go, and you don't know who to talk to, and
I've never shared it, with anybody besides my wife before. So like this is my first time actually talking about it, especially publicly. So
Well,
mean,
thank you very much. I really appreciate that you did that here, man. Yeah, if anyone's got any idea how, why, or what any of this stuff happens the way that it does, please share your ideas in the comments because I'd love to hear them. We all have our own thoughts and ideas, but if they're not shared with each other, then we're not really we're probably missing out on a lot of possibilities, right?
oh, for sure. And
Um,
one of the reasons why I wanted to come on here and talk about it too is because I know other people in the chat and people, guests that have come on have experienced things, and I want to share what I've gone through. Just I don't want people to feel like they're the only ones or that they've got nobody that they can talk to about what's happened to them. Because I mean, you are hesitant to share sometimes. Like I said, you don't want people thinking that you're totally nuts, or even worse, that you're making crap up just to get attention.
Yeah.
sure.
When you can share here, and we can talk about it, and I'll not cast judgment at each
Nope.
other for it. So
Never, man. Never. That's not going to happen here. I'll never allow anyone to come in and to be a troll or just an
Yeah,
asshole.
exactly.
Yeah, well, that's not. That's the opposite of what we try to do here, man. And I'm glad that people feel like they can come here and share the stuff. It sucks, man. It's not. It's already not easy to go through, and then to feel like you have nowhere to turn.
Mhm.
Just people go, I'm like, I can't talk about this. People are gonna think I'm nuts. They're gonna think I'm making it up, blah blah blah. But when you hear somebody tells their experience, and I say experience because story sounds like somebody's making shit up. It's experiences. When somebody shares their experiences like you do, there's no way that someone can listen to what you said tonight and for an instant think that you were making any of that up. Number
Exactly.
one, there's two. It's just right, Dewey. Like it's just
Very believable. Yeah. Yes.
yeah. It's just one of these things. Like it's a very you see the feelings that you're going through as you're telling it. You can feel it. The details are there. It's like there's just no way. And so I'm very very humbled that you decided to share it here, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share as well. So thank you.
No, anytime, dude. You're welcome here anytime. You know that you're part of the family, man.
Been a very, very enjoyable show.
Yeah, for sure, man. It has been a great show. I really did enjoy it. All right, let's get out of here. I know I got to get some sleep.
There you go.
I gotta rest for Thanksgiving because I'm fat and I need to eat as much as possible on Thursday.
I'm gonna be in trouble because my wife's out there with the baby, and I'm
You're
sure.
jibber jabbering away.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all right. That's typical. You have many more years of those troubles.
Absolutely.
How is the baby?
Oh, she's doing fantastic.
Oh, that's
Great.
great,
She's
dude.
she's already gained 2 pounds.
Oh, right on. So have I
Yeah.
since the start of the show.
Me too.
I got it
More
too.
than that. And probably more than that too.
Oh, that's great, man. I'm happy for you guys, man.
I'm gonna send you a couple pictures too, Kyle.
Yeah,
so you can
definitely
forward
send them
your
to me,
mom.
dude. Send them to me. I'll show them to mom. I'm sure she wants to see them.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. You guys have a wonderful night. I will see you back after Thanksgiving sometime. I'm not sure when, but I'll let you know. All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys. Have a wonderful night. See you next time. Bye.
Exactly. You'll have a happy Thanksgiving and